Vaping Militia.
And now for your hosts, Mondo, Robin, and Knock.
Welcome, everybody, to another edition of the Vaping Militia radio show. Lawsuits abound. Lawsuits, and more lawsuits. Maybe not that many lawsuits, but I know there are 3 of them already. There could be more, but, they're out there, and some have some good merit to them. So we're going to see how they progress through the court systems and when those dates are going to be actually put down on the court calendars, and see who the judges are going to be hearing all this. It's going to be an interesting time for a vaping industry because the deeming regs are really upon us, and there's a lot of analysts going around and kind of dissecting a lot of things. If you ever watched C-SPAN, there was a great panel about the deeming regs on C-SPAN. I don't know if it was today or yesterday, but I know Knock should know. So in that, we're going to be talking about all that. So here I have with me, of course, my 2 co-hosts, the Militia Lady, Robin, and the Google Foo Master. I haven't used those names in a while. Are knocked. How are you 2 tonight?
I'm good, Mondo. How are you?
I would be, well, I've been suffering from a sinus cold, so, I'm doing okay.
Still a little bit, yeah. I do hear it a little bit, though.
Yeah, it's, you know what, I had it, and then it came back on me, and then I was like, I fucking hate it. So, you know how that goes. But
yep,
we're going to travel the world right now, and we're going to go down and look at New Zealand. So in New Zealand, of course, that's where the premiere of 1 Billion Lives came out. And Knocked, since then, what is going on with the government and their outlook on vapor products?
Well, I mean, there's been a couple articles spreading around that seem really positive. That seem to be people in government in New Zealand basically saying that it may be time for them to reconsider their rules and prohibition on vaping in New Zealand. So I really think that the movie could have opened some eyes to, the life-saving miracle that vaping is, instead of some sort of nasty thing that people should be afraid of.
Right. And I'm looking at how the vaping industry in New Zealand is kind of it's not really that big.
Well, no, but New Zealand's not huge either.
But it has a potential to get big if the government sides with what the UK public health department has come out with. So you never know. It could be a very big vaping country.
Well, and the vaping scene. You remember when one of our friends, Jim, was traveling over in Europe. He was always saying how the vaping scene over there was so different, and that most of these big mods and things that we have over here are not as common over there. That people were using egos most of the time, when he would bump into another vapor over there, or even go into a vape shop. So, what happens here doesn't necessarily translate over there, but the option should be available for the people of New Zealand and the rest of the world. I mean, but I really think that this is a positive, some positive impact from this movie.
Right. Right. And you know what? I do see there is a lot of positive impact. I know they had a screening over in Melbourne Australia. And do we know when it's coming here, or do we have any clue? Has he said anything?
Not that I've seen. I mean, I've heard rumors that it would be sometime in the fall, but I haven't heard anything directly from them. And until I hear it directly from Aaron, or even Kurt, because him and Aaron are tight, I really am just going to wait until I hear something specifically from them. My worry is that they're not, I mean, their whole plan is that this must be seen in theaters. I see a lot of people pushing for it to go to Netflix or some streaming service or even some network, but Aaron really wants this to play in the theaters first, and we really need to still be pushing for those film distributors to pick it up. I mean, there's been no announcement of whether or not he's gotten one, and until we know for sure that he does, we should be writing letters and calling those film companies and the movie theaters. I want this film in our theater. I mean, I want to see it on a big screen myself. I mean, I do want it to be available eventually on Netflix or some streaming service or something like that, but I really want them to get a premiere here. I really want them to be able to make a statement with something like that. I mean, something premiering on Netflix or on demand on your TV at home does not make the same public, extravaganza. I mean, they really need to make a splash with this. They really need to make it premiere so that it can be done in the newspapers, and so that the media will spread it. If it goes direct to video or one of those things, it really isn't going to get the same public opinion that we want.
Yes.
Yeah. It'll have a much bigger impact if it's in the theater too, I think. Absolutely.
And you're right, because when we have that, we find out that a lot of people like to go to a theater and watch documentaries too. They're not just for your regular cable television stuff, but we hope that this will happen. And they talk about what I've heard. They talk about everything across the gamut, and it's really good movie or documentary movie. And another thing is that when we look at what the people across the ocean are doing, which is the England with the Royal College of Physicians, and them recognizing again that the potential of e-cigarettes or vaping products and the 95% more healthier than cigarettes, but over here we have a problem, and that's the FDA. Now the FDA they recently announced, the erroneous new regulations of e-cigarettes, and the FDA is taking this action and listen to this, they're taking this action to reduce the death and disease from tobacco products. So what they're saying is that e-cigarettes are the same as tobacco products, so we have to do this. We have to do what we're doing right now. And I think it is overreaching. I think it is going too far. But this is something that they've been wanting. The Democrats, and that's what we're talking about today. That's the title of this podcast tonight, is the Democrats and how they are the foe of the vapor. Because if you look at every state, now I'm going to focus on California because that's where I'm at. It's the Democrats that introduced all the legislation, the 6 bills, and passed them through. Now, there could have been some Republicans, yes. I mean, I'm not saying all Democrats, but there could be a Republican here and there. But the majority of all those that got together in their little committee was Democrats, because California is a Democratic run state. But if you look at all the different states, you have a lot of them that are Democrats that are doing this. And so we have this thing like, hey, wait a minute, at first we thought you guys were for us, and now you're not. You're putting all this stuff on us, and it sucks. And I don't like it. And I've noticed that it goes to like Blumenthal and Boxer, these people are totally against the vaping products and vapors. So it's something to think about.
Well, I mean, look at Debbie Wasserman Schultz, the head of the Democratic National Committee.
Correct.
You know, she's been open. I mean, blatantly open that she wants us gone. So, yeah, I mean, I don't have any illusions to the fact that our primarily the Democratic Party, and you know, there might be a few people like Mr. Bishop from Georgia who is willing to sign on to the Cole Bishop Amendment, who may be swayed, but the vast majority of our enemy has been from the Democratic Party, and this is on a national level. This is national politics.
Pretty much.
In the state level, it's a little bit different. There's been a few bills that were introduced on the state level by Republicans, but not a bunch. So yeah, I mean, they have primarily been our foe. And if you look at, you know, HR 2058, every co-sponsor on that bill is a Republican. Not a single Democrat has signed on. No matter how many times the Vapers have written letters, have called them, have sent them emails.
Yes.
Not a single Democrat has signed on to that bill.
No. And I need to make a correction. The premiere of The Billion Lives in Melbourne, in Australia, is not until July 10th of this year. So, small correction on that. But let's move on to this.
Just a little over a month.
Yeah, just a little over a month. Now, there's something that interests me. You sent me an article, and I was looking through it, and there is something that kind of caught me, and we talked about this a little earlier. Was that now everyone knows on August 8th, is it August 8th or August 10th? The dates keep being moved around.
It's August 8th.
Okay, so August 8th, companies will have 2 years to make the case that will say that, can you keep my product on the market? Right? That is the case they have to make.
Yeah, they have to you know, fill out an application and
right,
you know, jump through all these hoops and you know, basically testify about their product to the FDA. I mean, it's not really a court sort of thing, but
right,
they have to
prove,
you know, basically prove that their product deserves to be on the market.
Yes. So now they say once they do their PMTA, they have a 2-year waiting period, as they're saying. You have 2 years that you can continue to sell your product on the market. But now you got to listen to this. The FDA has said that they will try to respond within 1 year. However, if it doesn't respond to you in 1 year, then what I believe, knocked, is your product's done. What's going on? What happens to it? What happens to it from there?
The guidance that I've seen from pretty much both of the trade groups that have released information on this is essentially, yes, they have. You have 2 years to prepare your PMTA. And during that time, I'm assuming that they're going to be making sure that you're actually attempting to process it. I mean,
yeah.
I think there may be some vendors out there that are saying that they're going to try, but you know, at the end of 2 years, they may say, "Oh well, we didn't do it," and just leave. But yes, the idea is hopefully that first year of the 2-year period, you're working on getting your application stuff ready, all the testing, all that stuff, and hopefully by the end of that first year, you're prepared to drop your information on FDA, because a lot of that stuff, I mean, the initial process is registering, which has to be done by December 31st, and getting your products registered that way. That's one of the requirements, is
right,
that getting registered and stuff. But then after that first year of the 24 months, you should be busting your ass doing the testing and all that stuff, because that's all got to go with your application for the PMTA.
Yes.
So actually handing them the PMTA is not the first step. The first step is doing all of these testing requirements that we don't even know what they are yet. I mean, we know that we think we know that there's going to be some sort of in vitro studies, inhalation testing. They're going to want a chemical analysis. And then you have to do what they call population impact studies.
Now, how do they do that? Now there is an article out there, and I want to touch on this. PETA has come out against the deeming regulations only in this fact that they feel that they're going to be using animals to do all this testing. Is that correct?
Well, that would be a good assumption.
So they're coming out against that, and they're saying, you know what? Hey, 1 billion animals are going to die because they're going to have to go through all this testing.
Well, and that
I
could
hope
be.
not.
I don't know because they haven't said anything about what the test requirements will be yet. The PMTA has not the form is not even available yet. I mean, we have the tobacco product one, the one that's been using for cigarettes. I'm assuming that the vapor one will be essentially a modified version of that, but it doesn't really help you. It doesn't give. I mean, there's going to be regulation put out there telling the vendors what is going to be required, and it's not out yet, so we don't really know. But the other thing is, you talk about animals real quick. Truth, which is one of those evil people that are anti-smoking and anti-vaping, have a commercial that they're putting out now about how smoking kills more pets than anything else too. So
yes, I've seen that.
You would think that they would be pro-vaping because all those household pets that are dying when you were a smoker, you're not impacting them in the same way when you vape. But
that is correct.
Apparently not.
Now, let me ask you this, Robin. Let me ask you this, Robin. Go ahead. Say what you got to say, because I have to ask you a question.
Okay. I was going to say, the animal studies, and I always say, you guys know I'm a nurse, because I don't know who might be listening out there that doesn't know that I'm a nurse, and have been for like 26 years, And
that's because you're old.
I know, like today I really feel old, but that aside, some days you feel older than others. But, they've done all different kinds of testing on animals, through the years, whether it be drugs and saccharin and NutraSweet and just all kinds of exposing different kinds of animals to all kinds of things, whether it be injecting or inhaling or ingesting or whatever. And I hate it because one of the big things that I see as a problem with any of it is that they bombard them with whatever drug or whatever it is, and they give them so much more. They don't give them percentage-wise the same amount of whatever, maybe saccharin that, you or I would use in a cup of coffee. They give them so much of it. They actually overexpose the animals to whatever it is they're testing for. So I don't think the results they get are reliable anyway. They just don't.
Well, and we talked about a study last year where I would prefer, this is going to sound heartless, I would prefer that they use animals for these tests versus the test that we talked about last year where they used
cadaver tissue.
The children's cadaver tissue.
They weren't even teenage.
I forgot about
juvenile.
that.
Remember that?
I totally forgot about that.
Yeah, juvenile cadaver tissue. Remember, I ranted over that. I was so angry.
Yes.
It's bullshit.
So Robin,
use a live animal or a dead child.
Oh my God.
So Robin, I want to ask you.
If you want an accurate test, you want something that's alive.
Right. You're not going to get off nothing off of dead tissue.
You don't want to test on poor necrotic tissue of a child.
No, because you're not going to get an accurate reading.
Mondo, that's the study where they were blowing vapor at dead tissue like through a straw or
something.
Remember?
I remember this.
Wow. You wanted to ask me something, though.
Yes. Now, as a vapor, and I could have asked Knock this, but I'm going to ask you this. As a vapor, do you like choosing your own vaping products? Like, I go onto a website and I get to pick, if I want this type of mod or this type of battery or this type of tank or this type of heating element. Do I want a Clapton coil? Or I want this. Do you like doing that?
Absolutely. I like doing that, and I like being able to go into stores and try it too, and for lots of different reasons. Some mods feel better in your hands than others. I happen to have little hands, so I don't like a big mod. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, we all have different reasons for liking the things we like, whether it be just aesthetic. What were you just
never
gonna
mind,
say?
Knock.
She likes the hand feel.
Knocked.
No,
Never
shut
mind.
up.
Knocked.
He's going there, Mondo. He's going there.
Do not go
We
there.
don't have-
So you like to use
Do
your
not
hands,
go
huh?
there, Knocked. I'm just
You know what the problem
And
I'm gonna
is?
talk
have
right
your-
over you. I'm gonna keep talking right over
So-
you. I'm gonna keep talking right
you
over
know,
you.
Mute him.
little hands, little
Knocked.
never mind.
Anyways, guess what?
Oh my God.
Guess what?
You know what the
Um,
big problem is right here? That we don't all hang out enough outside of the show. So when we are here doing this, we start harassing each other like we would normally do in a regular hangout. So we need to start doing that more. Anyway.
So, anyways, back to that question at hand. You like doing that, but guess what? Because of these deeming regulations, businesses that let customers assemble their own vaporizers, choose their own batteries and tanks and heating elements are going to be doomed because the FDA wants information on how every possible combination of batteries, tanks, heating elements, coils interacts with every possible e-liquid. Is that just crazy?
It's almost mind-boggling. Like I'm just kind of picturing myself walking into a shop and saying, "Well, I'd like that. I don't know, Sigelli 150, and could you please put an Amigo tank on top with a 0.3 coil, and I want to try that liquid in it." Like, and I wouldn't be able to do any of that.
I actually have 6 different Addies on my desk right now.
Mm-hmm.
6 different Addies, and I'm sure that I don't have the most extensive collection of the atomizers that are on the market.
Right.
But we
But
know
you're
for a
6.
fact there was a brand new one released today because some vape reviewer guy did a Facebook video of a new tank that uses a new drop-in. It's the same drop-in coil, but a new tank. Blah blah blah, and they're coming out because everybody's trying to get everything out by August 8th.
Right.
So between now and August 8th, I can guarantee you that another 50 or 60 products are going to be released. And after August 8th, no new shit can happen. But for you to test every e-liquid that you sell in every nic level that you sell on every atomizer on the market, it's not possible.
It is not possible. It is not possible.
No.
That's why it just boggles my mind on this. Now listen to this. If you're a company and they're saying what the consensus is that few companies that can afford to follow the application process or go through the application process may not be able to persuade the FDA that their product should stay on the market. See, what the FDA wants to know, they want to know how every e-liquid interacts with every vaping system. This is what they want to know. Okay, and that is crazy. You don't get that with cigarettes. That type of stuff's not put on them, but it's being put on the vaping industry.
There's only one way to smoke a cigarette.
Yeah, well, what they want to know, this is what they really want to know. If the FDA wants to know that it expects that e-cigarette companies, they need to prove that their product will never be a gateway to smoking, and you're asking for the impossible is what's going on. You're asking for the impossible. This is what they expect our vaping companies to prove, that this will never be a gateway to smoking.
Well, I mean, let's look at it this way. This week, there was an article floating around everywhere. Everybody was happy because the headline says OMB or White House strips e-cigarette regulations of flavor restrictions or something along those lines.
Yes.
And I think it's hilarious that everybody was spreading this around saying, yay, yay, this is good news, this is good news. There was no good news in that article. The original language, as it was provided to OMB, had a language in there that basically said that any non-tobacco flavors had 90 days from the active date to apply for pre-market approval before they could sell their products after the 90 days. We already know that FDA they said they didn't have any intention of banning flavors, but they went ahead and included it in this 499 page garbage that they released. Just because OMB released it or removed it, all that did was give us an additional, 2 years. They didn't save anything.
No.
All they did was, instead of cursing us to a fast death, they put it, they punished us or sentenced us to a slow 2-year death.
Yeah, exactly.
Because FDA, the whole idea, and I posted on Facebook about a week or so ago, that if anybody tells you as a consumer that if any vendor tells you that they're planning on complying and they're planning on filing their PMTAs, they're lying to you, because the PMT process is so expensive, so arduous, that nobody's going to be able to fit the requirements. Nobody's going to be able to do it. It's a lie. 2 years, if we don't change the deeming date, if we don't get HR 2058 or the Cole-Bishop Amendment through,
or if the lawsuits don't work, we need to get those in there to
or
work.
any of the lawsuits or the political angles from Fair
I think we're done.
If any of those things don't work in 2 years, or in 30 months if you apply for the extension that they're providing for small businesses, and let me put it this way, you don't even qualify for that extension unless you've put forth an effort to file your PMTA. Everybody, I keep seeing that, but nobody's reading the part where it basically says you only qualify if you're, submitting a PMTA. And that means that you've initiated the process.
Okay, so in the vaping industry, in this article that I'm reading, in the vaping industry, which includes at least 186 manufacturers and 14 importers, as well as 4,250, I don't know where they're getting these numbers from, vape shops mixing their own fluids. Only the largest business can hope to meet the FDA's strict demands of the deeming reg. Even if some fraction of the industry survives this, the regulations will dramatically reduce competition. And some people say, oh, yeah, I don't want no competition because then I'll get all the money. Yeah, but it dramatically reduces consumer choice, raised prices, and it also deters innovation. And I don't see really, I mean, just from my perspective, and this is my opinion only, I don't see really anybody getting through this. This is going to be a very stringent, and there's no, just because you paid your money, there is no light at the end of the tunnel. There could be no light at the end of the tunnel.
No, Greg Conley has been calling this the millionaire's lottery, was what he's calling it. When he goes up on stage and asks people, are you planning on filing a PMTA? Or what he says is, are you planning on playing the millionaire's lottery and trying to file a PMTA? Because it's going to cost, I mean, no business, even the biggest businesses in vaping, even, I don't know who's the biggest, but, say, it scared the shit out of Halo because NicoPure is they've already filed a lawsuit.
Yeah.
Because they know, I mean, and they only make a handful of product. I mean,
but they know the what they're facing.
And you've got some of these online vendors that sell like 300 flavors.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, really?
They're never going to get that.
You could take your top 10 sellers, and you would still not be able to afford.
You probably could take your one bestseller and still not be able to afford to get through it. Right. Now, I love this quote at the end of this article, and it says, "In the name of public health, the FDA is protecting the deadliest nicotine delivery system from competition with one of the safest." Someone needs to make a meme out of that.
Yeah.
Because they have totally, with the help of Democrats who have been working together to get rid of the vaping industry. This is the cost of doing business right now as a vaping vendor. Because they want you gone. Democrats want you gone, and I'm saying it. If you don't like what I'm saying, too bad. Democrats want you gone. Big Tobacco wants you gone. Big Pharma wants you gone. They want you gone. This is why they're putting all this stuff on us. They're putting all this stuff through the states and everything. This is what they're doing. And this is like strange bedfellows. To have those guys together against an industry, an emerging industry?
Well, look at it this way. Vapors are a very broad demographic. We cover everybody. Old people, young people, right-wing people, left-wing people. There's Christian vapors and gay vapors. I mean, we are a very, very, very broad group. And most of the political things that, well, not most, but there's a large segment of our community that are left-leaning. And for them, they're having a difficult time picking out vaping as a single issue thing, because for them, they have strong emotions about other things, whether they're, pro-choice or, there's a lot of California vapors that are very liberal. And for them to back a conservative that is pro-vaping, for them, it's like a two-headed baby. They just can't do it. So, yeah, I mean, we're in a difficult position when it comes to politics, just based on the fact that most of the younger people that are vapors are, socially liberal, and they really just can't fathom the idea that they're going to have to vote for somebody that stands against everything else that they believe in.
Knockdown, let me ask you a question here. Now, I heard this somewhere, and I can't remember where I heard it, but somebody was talking about and made this claim. I don't know if it was a claim, but asked this question. What happened to the ATR? I thought they were supposed to be over tobacco. I thought they were supposed to regulate over tobacco and all this stuff. How come they're not
ATF?
in this? Oh, the ATF, sorry. ATR.
Yeah, ATF is
ATF,
is a division.
sorry.
Well, they're a division of Treasury.
Right, but someone had made that, and someone had came back and said, well, no, the FDA won that power to regulate tobacco in 2009 when Obama signed the Family Smoking Prevention and Tobacco Control Act.
Well, technically, what's going to happen, and this is going to be a messy thing, as soon as, on the federal level, as soon as a vapor tax passes, then ATF will also have dogs in the hunt because they're Treasury.
Right.
So right now, when it comes to manufacture and distribution, FDA has regulation, has control. But when Treasury will step in when there's money involved, when there's taxes involved, that's where ATF will come in.
It is just there is so many hands in the pot on this. It's a lot of fists hitting an emerging industry, and it's just crazy because you're looking at legislation sponsored by Henry Waxman, a California Democrat, that has totally dismantled vaping in California a bit, with a lot of things that we have to deal in this state. Then you have there's the so-called secret negotiations with Campaign for Tobacco-Free Kids. Now, is this true? I don't know. But there's supposed to be some secret negotiation that happened between Altria, which is a tobacco company, Philip Morris, right? Or did they get sold?
Altria is different than Philip Morris.
Or are they the parent of Philip Morris? Or are they?
I don't even know anymore. It's all incestuous to me now.
And they're having this secret negotiation with the Campaign for Tobacco-Free Kids, which is supposed to be a public health advocacy group, negotiating with GlaxoSmithKline, a pharmaceutical giant, all this stuff. Now, is it true? I don't know. But these are some of the things that you see as you divulge into this industry and you hear all the different things that are going on. You hear these things. It just makes you pause a little bit that we have some of the biggest Democrats in our nation coming against us and coming against their own fucking constituents.
We talked about that when we talked about the prohibitionists and the was it the Puritans and the prohibitionists?
Yes. Bootleggers. Isn't that the bootleggers? Isn't that the bootleggers?
Well, it's very similar. The bootleggers.
Baptists and bootleggers. Yeah.
That has to do with the fact that the bootleggers want want regulation because they're going to make more money.
Exactly.
And the Baptists don't want it because it's they're the Baptists, but the Puritans and the Prohibitionists, we talked about when we talked about how in the UK the Puritans came to America and they were Bible thumping, church going, prim and proper people, and the Prohibitionists want to make everything illegal.
Yes.
And essentially you have that sort of thinking when it comes to us. You have all of the groups. You have the Puritans, the Prohibitionists, the Baptists, and the bootleggers all working together against us, because you have the health groups working with big tobacco, working with pharma. All of them, in one way, shape, or form, are using one of those mental processes. The Puritans would be the drug people. The Prohibitionists are the health groups people. The bootleggers are the people, the bad actors within our own community that are really not doing anything because they think, well, the black market, I'm going to make a lot of money in the black market. So we have all of these different factions working against us, whether they're in cahoots or not.
They could be in cahoots, because you think about it. Now, if you go to these websites like OpenSecrets.com, it's a database for campaign finance, you'll find out that a big Democrat called Lutenberg, got a big chunk of cash in 2008 for just as he called for a regulation of vaping from big giants like GlaxoSmithKline, Johnson & Johnson, all these guys that have made these rival smoking cessation products, such as your nicotine patches and stuff, and see that unregulated e-cigarettes are eating through their market share. So all of a sudden, you see someone like Mark Leno. If you look at his campaign finance database, oh my God, it's just littered with pharmaceutical companies. And he's the one that introduced vaping regulations in California and got it through.
Well, I mean, he played dirty pool.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, he went beyond any level of what most people would consider to be due diligence to get those bills through. But there is a meme that's circulating around, and I'm not a huge fan of memes, and I'm gonna put this out there. If you try to post a meme in the Vaping Militia Facebook, it's not getting through. I don't care what it says. I don't think they're helpful, and I really think that people think that they're educating people with a one-sentence meme. Put the whole article in there. Let people read it. Let them learn. But there is a meme floating around with the 6 biggest anti-vaping politicians and the amount of money that was provided to them by big pharma companies in the last year, and it's eye-opening to say the least. The amount of money that some of these people are getting for supporting drug company interests.
Yeah, because you have, remember Senator Ed Markey? Remember that guy that said e-cigarettes should be put out of business? Took $445,000 in campaign political action committee donations that came from pharmaceutical companies.
So are you saying it's really not all about the children?
No, it's not about the children. It's about the money. We always know that. we always talk around about it, but it's about the money.
His lips move, but they move when the pharmaceutical guy that has his hand up his ass.
Yes, exactly.
Makes them move.
Yeah.
And you got Ohio Sherrod Brown, Connecticut's Richard Blumenthal. Both took $479,000 and $131,000 respectively from these companies. So you see, it's almost, I hate to say it, it's almost like drug company money. People say it's drug money, those drug company money that is killing the vaping industry.
If you look at OpenSecrets.org, you can actually just look at the donations from sectors.
Yes.
So you can put in the healthcare sector or the pharmaceutical sector, and you can see the totals from just those industries and to which party they go to. It's very interesting when you sit at that website and you don't have anything else to do and you're just bored and you want to learn stuff. that's one of the places where you can go and find out a lot of stuff. You don't even have to look at a specific politician. You can look at organizations. You can look at companies. You can find out where Safada spent their money. It tells you how much money they spent on their lobbyists last year, or how much their lobbyists spent and reported. You can look at, Pfizer. You can look at all sorts of stuff, and it'll tell you how much money they spent. So it's really interesting.
Yeah, and it's very eye opening, and it's just crazy that the FDA with these vaping rules are so biased, and they have to be biased. Their commissioner used to work for a pharmaceutical company. You have Mitch Zeller, who at one time was pushing for these regulations, right? But also was in the working for GlaxoSmithKline at the time. He was a lobbyist and consultant for them. And he helped craft the 2009 Tobacco Control Act that President Obama, a Democrat, had signed. I had to throw that in there. Sorry. But you think about it, you have all this stuff, and it seems like the FDA is totally closed themselves in a box and doesn't want to hear anything from anybody except for those they invite to come in. Because
we talked about the RICO case.
Yes, the RICO case.
Against, Margaret, whatever her name is,
former commissioner of FDA. Yes.
I actually did a little bit of looking, and it doesn't take much. But if you just type in FDA corruption and RICO in Google, you're gonna hit. There's a bunch. It's not just that. There's like multiple suits, multiple charges against FDA. Johnson & Johnson was named in one of the suits with FDA. So there's a whole bunch of these conspiracy and corruption cases against FDA. And I think by this time it should be very apparent with the number of suits that are against FDA for corruption and RICO and all these different things that it's broken. FDA is broken.
It is broken.
It may have been, worthwhile, or it may have been successful in the past when it was formed. I mean, when it was originally formed, it was in like the early 1900s, like 1920 or something like that, and they were necessary. But right now, what they should do, I mean, really and truly, is tear the whole thing down and build it back up again, because the way it works now, it's basically a pay-to-play sort of thing, and if you have enough money, you can get your drug approved no matter how many horrible things it will cause. And, speaking of that, there was a thing going around this week about candy-flavored amphetamines. Is that what it was? Was it amphetamines?
Yeah, it was amphetamines. Yeah, I seen that.
Yeah, it was.
Now,
but are they for ADD?
No, they were actually for cancer children.
Oh.
And I really think, and this is related but not related, and I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry.
Okay.
Not sorry.
We really need to quit looking at other fucking things that can get away with stuff that we can't get away with. Like, I saw a picture that somebody posted from Las Vegas when you were at VCC or VPX or whatever the hell it was.
Yeah,
and it was a slot machine with the Flintstones on it.
So
and they said, well, who is this marketing to? And I'm like, motherfucker, that is apples and oranges.
Yes,
yeah,
it is.
It's totally apples and oranges.
Really and truly, we're grasping at straws and we're attacking things. Now, I'm sorry if I have a heart and I feel like cancer kids deserve a medicine that helps them and allows them to feel better, but quit fucking whining because they have candy flavored drugs.
You know what though? I mean, kids, when you were a little kid, when any of us was a little kid, our parents gave us cherry flavored Tylenol, grape flavored Tylenol. That's how you get medicine into kids. That's absolutely apples and oranges. It's a totally different thing. I mean, my kids always had ear infections, so they were always taking amoxicillin. It came in bubblegum flavor. If it didn't, I would have never gotten it into them. That's why they make those things flavored. It's not about abusing it or anything else like people would have you think. It's about trying to get the medicine into the kids.
It just really pissed me off when I saw it, because a lot of people were reading the headline and they weren't reading the story.
Yeah. Hold on, guys. Hold on, guys.
When I work in healthcare, and Robin, you work in healthcare, and you damn well know there's a fucking sucker push-through pain medicine.
Absolutely.
It's on a sucker. It's designed for you to put it in your mouth, and it will dissolve over time, and it helps cancer patients and rehab patients that are there for physical therapy get through their treatment.
And AIDS patients, I mean, all kinds of people. Really, and it works very, very well.
I'm just annoyed about this whole candy flavored, they can do it, why can't we? Or whatever. Grow the fuck up and fight the fight that you have in front of you, and quit fucking pointing at other people. It makes you all look like little children pointing at your big brother and saying, well, he can do it, why can't I?
Yeah, the candy cigarette thing bothers me when I see that, because they still have those candy cigarettes.
Most places you can't get them. You have to go to a specialty candy store to get those. Or at least here you do. But come on, guys. Grow the fuck up. Yeah. I'm going to be unpopular, but you know what? I don't care.
And that's like two kids fighting and then saying to mom, but he did it. You know what I mean? Like, it's okay for him to get away with it. Why can't I? That's bullshit. Just grow the fuck up.
Well, you think about
the right thing and take responsibility for your actions.
The FDA bias under the operating banner of protection for children. You know what they do? They actually ignore the fact that the vaping industry is more about entrepreneurs that are moms, dads, their grandparents, who are already dedicated to protecting children. What is the main thing of vaping, switching from smoking to vaping? Because people have children, secondhand smoke, that has already been determined that does kill people, and we go to something that doesn't do it because, we find out that there's no harm to bystanders from the vape. So you're protecting your children, right?
Right. Absolutely. You know what? My younger kid has asthma. He's 18 now, but he started with when he was 2, and I never smoked near him, not in the car, I never smoked in the house at all. I'm comfortable sitting next to my kid and vaping. I'm comfortable doing that.
Yes,
and it doesn't bother him at all.
And this whole thing about it's not, they don't want it to be a gateway to smoking. I think it's rather a gateway from smoking.
Agreed. Yeah.
Well, and I think we should focus on saving the children by letting them have fucking parents. People.
Absolutely.
If mom and dad ain't there because they died of lung cancer, then you're not saving the children. Yep. And agreed. I know this is very close to Mondo. The whole, dying of cancer thing, because he had a loved one recently pass away.
Yeah, 2 days ago, my aunt.
Past couple days.
Yeah, 2 days ago, my aunt passed away from lung cancer from smoking all her life.
Yeah.
So we need, let's look at it this way. Little Timmy wants to play catch in the front yard with his dad, and if his dad's not there because he died of lung cancer, then we're not fucking saving the kids.
Nope,
you're absolutely right.
It is. It's just so egregious the way the Democrats, the pharmaceutical companies, tobacco, and our FDA have used the banner of kids to throw in their face, and it's almost shameful and disgusting the way they've done it. And getting kids to show up and bust them in to state legislators saying, this is going to hurt us and everything. The dirty tactics and all that stuff that these the ALA and tobacco-free kids have used against the vaping industry.
Those people are exploiting children.
Yeah, it's exploitation. It is.
Yes, absolutely.
Indoctrination.
And it's just so sad. And you know what? You have to just stand back and say, wow, just wow. I believe that the majority of all vapors were not prepared for any of this. We didn't know the political side. We just wanted to quit smoking. That's all we wanted to do. We found a way of doing it that is successful, and that's all we wanted to do. We didn't want to go and change the world one day. We told everybody else about it and told our other friends that were smoking, told our family members, and then they made the choice if they wanted to quit or not through vaping products. But they have totally demonized us. They demonize nicotine all the time, which they found is not a carcinogen, right? Not a carcinogen.
Not
Stimulant.
nicotine
It's
itself.
a stimulant.
It's a stimulant.
But they
just
say,
like caffeine.
nicotine. How many times did we see in articles that were against vaping? Oh, and nicotine is a cause of lung cancer and it is a carcinogen. Just blatant lies about this stuff. And
and I heard a doctor say something like that recently. And when you try to correct a doctor, it doesn't necessarily work out well. So make sure that you have your smartphone with you when you go to educate them, and you pull it up on the PDR and you show it to them and say, "Look, it's not a listed carcinogen."
Right.
And then they look at you and they look around to see if there's any witnesses.
Yeah.
wow.
It's funny now.
Because I've had really intelligent people. I had a pulmonologist who is a huge anti-smoking person here in Corpus Christi, where I live, try to tell me that nicotine was a carcinogen, and I did correct him in front of people and let him know that he was mistaken.
And he loved you for it.
That it is the smoke that kills you, not the nicotine.
Right.
The tar.
It is the tar, the formaldehyde, and 6,000 other things that are in a combustible cigarette that are not
crap.
in e-liquid.
Yeah.
And I haven't heard him say anything else. My wife is a nurse, and he works with my wife a lot because I used to work in that same hospital, and he knows me. But the wife says that he hasn't said anything anti-vaping since then.
Good.
Wow. But you know what? I noticed that, as we move on and as we do things behind the scenes to help those that are fighting the FDA and everything, we seem to get a lot of flack sometimes. But we will take it because we know what we're doing is the right thing. We know that what we're doing to help those in this industry stand up for themselves. And I applaud the lawsuits. If good or bad, I applaud them because they're doing something. They're not sitting around saying, maybe we should. No, they understand the ramifications of the deeming reg, and they're going forth saying, you know what, this is bullshit. Now, there are some, in here, and I want to talk about this real quick as we end. The Nicopure Labs lawsuit does have a thing on there on the First Amendment claims saying that it violates, the deeming regs violates the First Amendment, which is a freedom of speech. It's other things, but it's the freedom of speech. Is that what it is? And we have something in the tobacco industry, and it's in the deeming reg now. It's called the modified risk provision, which states you cannot communicate truthful, misleading information about the relative risk about your vapor product without going through a prior approval process. And in that, they're saying, well, that's our First Amendment right, that we can say those things, right? Is that what it is, Mark? Is that what it is, what they're trying to say?
Well, what they're saying is now, and there's a difference between individual freedom to speak or freedom of speech.
Yes.
And when it comes to corporate language, when it used to be, they were held completely separate. And there have been recent court cases where it has been decided, or where they have sort of changed their way of thinking when it comes to companies making statements. And let's put it this way. If you are an employer, if you're an owner of a vape business, or your staff are employees of a vape business, and they're making comments to people that are customers, it is not them individually that are making those statements. They are an entity. They're employed by you, and any statements that your employees say are your responsibility, and therefore it's a company that's making those statements. It's not, Joe behind the counter that's making those statements. It is the company that's making those statements. So before you can make a modified risk or a health claim, this is less harmful than smoking or any of that stuff, you actually have to go through the scientific edge of that and prove it before you can make those statements.
And that's going to cost money, right? That's going to cost money.
That's a modified risk claim, yes.
So will that also include a monetary process too? Like when I'm trying to do that, I have to pay them to make that?
Well, you have to do all the scientific testing, and yes, you have to pay FDA a processing fee.
Yeah. People
don't quite understand the actual PMTA is not going to be, massive amounts of money. It's probably still, a lot of money, but the $1 million price tag that's attached to the PMTA that everybody keeps talking about, the FDA is not going to get that money. They're going to get a small portion of that money as your application fee, but the vast majority of that money is going to be spent making, the testing and doing all that stuff prior to your application.
Right.
And paying your attorneys. As far as the modified risk tobacco application process, yes, it's going to be fucking expensive.
You know what? Now the FDA does acknowledge that, and they know that the ends are distinguishable from traditional tobacco products. They also acknowledge that some evidence suggests that ends may potentially promote transition away from combusted tobacco used by some current users, and it is possible that there could be some public health benefit. Now they're acknowledging this, possibly,
no.
Potentially.
They're acknowledging that it's possible and it potentially could, but
yes,
they are in no way, shape, or form admitting.
No, they're not.
Those statements.
No, they're acknowledging that this could happen or this could be a potential, but they're not admitting it is. That's two different things. FDA agrees that the use of ends is likely less hazardous for an individual user than continued smoking of traditional cigarettes. So
right.
These are things that they acknowledge, and they're like, they could potentially do that, but we got to find out.
Right, and that's essentially the same kind of language that Judge Leon issued when he did the Satara decision.
Yes.
You potentially could regulate this as tobacco, but you cannot regulate this as a medical device because they've made no health claims.
Yeah.
Now,
that set us on this road. That decision set us on this road.
Right. And now they are attempting, and whether or not we defeat them in court will decide whether or not the potential actually existed and became true.
Right.
So this is the law until it is defeated in court, essentially.
So, Robin, any last words for you as we get out of here?
You know what? I just want to mention that I will not be here next week. I will be in Miami for World Vaper Expo. So if anybody out there will be there, if you're near Miami, you're in Miami, whatever, please make sure you stop over and say hi. But that's all I wanted to say.
Awesome. Knocked?
I want to take a minute to make an appeal to the vaping community, air quotes. In the last week or so, I've seen a lot of negativity posted on the Facebook groups, on the CASA group, all over the place. People criticizing each other, people attacking each other, people being downright douchey to each other. Please, please, please make an effort to take a deep breath, count to 10, and think about stuff before you post it, because I know most of you in this community, air quotes, aren't really assholes. There are some. I'm one of them. I am an asshole, but I count to 10 throughout the day at least 150 times.
Did you just say air quotes?
twice.
He did, and he said he's an asshole, and it may be true, but you are our asshole, not.
Wow.
I think that
And we love you.
we are creating a lot of division within our community. And last week I used the one-liner. We need to stop using unity as a weapon. Instead of using unity as a weapon, create unity. Create this community, air quotes again, and make it a real thing instead of an imagined thing. Quit being assholes to each other. If you don't like something, there's no reason for you to sit at your keyboard and become a fucking vigilante. It's time for us to be nice to each other.
There's some people that just can't be nice, and then they never will. So, and that's understandable to a point. But when you have people that are trying to do things that are right, and you're just the person that just wants to sit there and pick at them and attack them, then you know what? You just need to be gone. That's all. That's my opinion on that, because you're not helping anything. How are you helping? Well, I'm trying to make you understand that I probably have the single best idea to save vaping. It's like, really? There is no single best idea to save vaping. Nothing. It's going to take everybody to do this. And when we have somebody out there just picking at us or picking at everything that's being said, well, I didn't like the way you said this. That's just wrong. This is bullshit. Everybody has an opinion. And we know about that, how opinions are. So anyways, like Knox said, let's be kind to one another. Let's help one another. Let's help this industry a little more than instead be deconstructive. And, there's some people out there that have a good idea and they're getting torn out for it. So we move on. As we always say, we got to move forward. We can't move backwards. So be nice to each other out there, and vape on and fight on. I want to thank everyone who tuned into the show. Thank you, all you listeners that came out. I appreciate it. This is the Vaping Militia Radio, and you are listening to us on Spreaker.com. And you can listen to this podcast at SoundCloud, at our website, thevapingmilitia.org, and at our Facebook page. And we're also now on iTunes again. We finally got back on iTunes. Yay! So this is TVMR signing off. Good night, everyone.